iPhone. Happy Tuesday, everybody. My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee, with my best bud, Rodney Wilds, who I'm going to vote for best beard in the state, who is a loan officer with First Bank, also in Williamson County, Tennessee. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
It's I, this is the perfect weather here in Tennessee. This
Oh
is
my
it.
gosh. It's been fabulous. I actually played golf on, was it Columbus Day yesterday?
Yes, used to be
Yeah.
Indigenous Peoples Day.
Whatever day it was a bank holiday and Rodney played golf. So appreciate the whatever it was, the federal holiday.
I I can never figure that particular holiday out because, like, if it's a federal holiday, I expect everybody to take off. So I kind of personally, I geared down, and they picked up trash and they did the yard. So it's like,
Yeah,
huh.
we I heard THDA was open. We because we got a I heard we got a an approval, and that's for anybody who don't Tennessee Housing Development Agency, and they're a state agency. So I guess the state's open, but the government's not. So
I can't figure that out. I did want to start out with saying I was so happy to see the hostages, all that stuff in the Middle East. I just have to say, congratulations to everybody involved, and I, for one, was I was really personally I was really caught up in the videos of those people getting back together. I mean, I was weepy, and I mean, it was I found it very moving, and I'm so grateful that we'll see where it goes, but boy, that's a great first
yeah,
step. So, there is Angie Cat. Look at her, Mad Cat Lady on the line. How you doing, girly girl? Welcome from California. Good morning to you. So, here's how we're going to launch into today's stuff. The theme is how the market is kind of confusing. Meaning, and there was actually an article. I was watching a news article about real estate this morning, um, and the guy was talking about flat out that buyers and sellers alike are they're just confused, and pendings are way down and cancellations are way up. Meaning pending is when you've kind of gone through the process and you're just waiting to close. That's what pendings are. But then there's still cancellations that can come along. In my vernacular, pending is you've cleared all the contingencies. Apparently that's not the way everybody reads that, but I mean, at any rate, so there's cancellations all over the place. And what he's talking about is, hey, good rain there. Okay, watch the Burns places, right? Um, when that happens, and his phrase was what we use every week, is confused buyers stop moving. That's the way it is. And we're in the middle of that. And when you think about, we were just talking about Jerome Powell he had not, it wasn't an official meeting. I don't know what it was. It was a luncheon of some kind. But for the government, it bases all its decisions, meaning in the stock market and all kind of stuff, and everything that Powell does, and the 12 governors of that, they base that on numbers. Well, when the government's shut down, there's no numbers. There's no reports, and so he used the term, everybody is flying blind. So if that starts at the top, I mean, if there's no reports coming in and we're not getting any information, everybody's flying blind. Do you have an opinion on sort of that theme of the confusion, Rodney?
yeah, it's definitely confusing. It's whenever excuse me, I've always said whenever there's any kind of opportunity for someone to delay a big decision, it always happens. And like with the government shutdown, of course, with just with what the interest rates are projected to go down, that puts buyers on fences. Uh, I can see why it's like is right now the best time to buy, and it may not be. It looks like rates are declining. The house prices appreciation's not skyrocketing. It's pretty flat, or could be decreasing depending on what pocket of the country you're in. So yeah, I mean, it's one of these deals where I can see people backing out because there's uncertainty, and that it you've said it a million times that people like stable, calm. Things need to to feel good about the economy, and a huge purchase. So yeah, I definitely see all of this playing into the fact that it's delaying buyers.
And one of the things, and again, the reason I love this show and having these conversations with Rodney is that my experience in real estate is I'm dealing with people incoming that are thinking about buying a house, because that's where it's called upstream. That's where people start. They're thinking, maybe we should buy a house, maybe we should sell a house, maybe we should upgrade, whatever that is. And I'm the one that kind of interviews. Well, I do interview people specifically when they're coming in. What kind of house do you want? How much can you spend? In ways of saying, how serious are you? Because a lot of times people are looky-loos and stuff like that. Well, I can tell you that has fairly well dried up. The looky-loos, not only is this the time of the season when they mostly go home, but you show me doubt and that kind of stuff in the market. Looky-loos are they're more concerned about the numbers and stuff, and since they can't make sense of that, they kind of stop. Now there is a brand, I will interject, that there's a brand of looky-loo. They just like to go look window shopping. But
Mhm.
they like that. That's why Zillow works, But at any rate, it's when you go through those interviews, a lot, if it's in this kind of market, after you go through what kind of house you want, how much do you want to spend, if you talk to Rodney, because the first thing we do after we talk about the basics is I send him to Rodney. This is what I do. I recommend that you get a lender letter, that you find out how much you can afford and that kind of stuff. But during that conversation, they'll say, do you think this is a good time to buy? And that is a question I really can't answer for you. If you're ready and the reasons are strong enough, the answer is 100% on that. But based beyond that, that's a conversation that they have with Rodney. And the reason I mentioned that is that generally comes up only when there's question marks in the market. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to do, yep, good. Okay, oh, wait, no, I'm not. Bang, here, 2, good, bang. The Federal Reserve policymakers, this was an article, this was, Rodney sent this and said, this looks like good info. And I was like, no kidding. The Fed's officials discussed risk of housing market collapse. It's a little daunting. At the recent meeting to cut interest rates. Well, okay, let's talk about that. The Federal Reserve policymakers discussed the risk of substantial deterioration in the housing market during their latest meeting to set interest policy rates. Interest rate policy, according to newly released minutes. During the September meeting, members of the Federal Open Market Committee, FOMC, voted 11-1 for a quarter-point rate cut, with newly appointed Governor Stephen Mirren as a lone dissenter, instead calling for a larger half-point. Let it be known that he was a recent Trump appointee, and we pretty much know where Trump lands on that. Minutes from the meeting released on Wednesday show that Fed Chair Jerome Powell and other members of the panel discussed a wide range of economic factors as they considered appropriate rate policy, including ongoing issues in the housing market. You can see how much of this I've got highlighted because, this was a good article. Several participants noted continuing weakness in the housing market, and a couple of participants mentioned the possibility of a more substantial deterioration in the housing market as a downside risk to economic activity. Rodney, jump in here. Here's my perspective on that. They noted continuing weakness. I mean, I don't want to be an alarmist, but how rough does it got to get out there for somebody in there to go, hey, wait a minute, this is messy? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's they say one thing and in the very next sentence, well, they said, I'm very concerned about, the collapse of the housing market, and then they lowered it a quarter point, and now they're talking about, well, you know, we don't want to rush inflation. I mean, it's crazy. They it's such a difficult task, and it's got to be approached by so many different angles. It's I don't know if everybody's on the same page about it, obviously. So with the Fed, with the Fed, they're liable to do anything, you know.
The only thing I could think of as I was reading through this, because you can't hit it drives me crazy. And I don't mean in a bad way. It's just that I wouldn't want their job because that's got to be a hell of a balancing act. That has got to be a hell of a balancing act. Let's push forward. And Ange, I see your question. I'm going to answer that in just a second. So home sales have hovered at, I mean, things are tough. They've noted this. Home sales have hovered at multi-decade lows over the past 3 years, despite relative strength of the overall economy, which I can't figure that out. As elevated mortgage rates and record high home prices combine to push homes out of reach for many families. They've been pushed out for quite a while now. I mean, that's been going on for, I want to say 2 years, but easily a year and a half. Unaffordability has become the main theme of the housing market, in my opinion. The housing market has been curiously weak in recent years. Interesting, says Realtor Chief Economist Danielle Hale, and she's one of my favorites. Amid the ongoing lack of affordability in housing, there is a concern that we may see demand weaken for new home sales, which would have an important effect on overall economy activity and employment in the housing sector. Builders are like, I saw an ad, and I got to tell you, I base a lot of my, when I'm taking temperature of the market, it's like, because I'm a realtor, I get ads all the time from builders that I've done business with over the years. It, and builders are pretty brave on, I mean, they are marketing guys. That's what they do. They're marketers that happen to sell houses, is the way I kind of look at it. And there was a builder came and they were given incentives like you wouldn't believe. I mean, they are really serious about incentives, and they're trying to get rid of that standing stock because they've got that. They probably were used to be spec homes and people were walking away. So I wouldn't want to be a builder either. Although the Fed doesn't set mortgage rates directly, I mean, we always say that, those rates tend to move based on expectations about future monetary policy, making the housing sector especially sensitive to changes in Fed rates. While Fed rate cuts could, in theory, stimulate housing demand for the very interest rate sensitive sector, which is what we're going to talk about with Angie in a second, it's worth noting that the Fed's policy lever is a direct adjustment on short-term rates. That's that overnight stuff, not longer-term rates like mortgage rates, says Hale. As a result, it's possible that the Fed can cut its policy rate and longer-term interest rates, such as mortgage rates, can increase. What is the rate today? Did you check it? Do you know?
It's a little over 6, I think, still.
You think it's like 6.3? And that,
Somewhere, yeah. I haven't checked. I've checked FHA this morning. I haven't checked.
yeah. The reason I is because it mentions
FHA was
6.31.
under 6%.
Oh, that's good. That is good. However, the government shutdown kind of adds to that drama. We'll get there in a second, I believe. Isn't that right? Fed uses higher interest rates to combat inflation and lower interest rates to stimulate the labor market in line with its dual mandate. I know Rodney has something to say about that, of price stability and maximum employment. The September meeting required a delicate balancing act from the Fed, with inflation still elevated and the labor market sounding alarm bells, putting the two sides of mandate in tension. Just a couple of thoughts. The meeting minutes offer new insights into the various opinions of the board on monetary policy, a topic that becomes unusually politically charged in recent months. DJT. President Trump, who campaigned on in 24 on making homes more affordable for everyday Americans has intensely pressured the Fed to lower rates since taking office, saying it would stimulate the market. Do you have any thoughts at this juncture?
Yeah, I just thought it was very interesting that the chief economist kind of labeled the housing market, or said the housing market has been curiously weak in recent years. Curiously weak is a great way to put it, because there's been oftentimes decent factors, um, with the rates decreasing and things like that, that's made it more advantageous to buy. There are good factors right now, reasons to buy, but it's it with the rate like it is, the economy like it is, with the stuff in China, the government shutdown. There is so much going on right now that it's taken where it's curiously weak. I just thought was a very good term, because it's like, hey, it actually should, it's not as good as the numbers actually reflect. So if that makes sense. So I thought that was it rang true with what I thought. I thought it was curiously weak as well.
And from a numbers perspective, that's absolutely right. But I think, and we've said it before, at least I believe this to be true, that most, there's two parts to a purchase. There's what draws you in is the emotion, and then what usually pulls the trigger most of the time is the logic of it. That's generally the way it works. Some people are emotional on both sides, and those are those are the folks they move along pretty quickly. I don't want to think about it. I just want to buy it. Okay, all right, here we go. In public comments, so we're going to talk about this Trump appointee has said he believes the neutral rate for the Fed is 2%, far below the Fed's current range of 4 to 4.25, and that favors moving quickly towards 2%. The economist Hale notes that the meeting minutes show a still hefty amount of concern for inflation among the members, perhaps more than a casual observer might have picked up from seeing the rate cut. This is more evidence that the nature of the September rate was an insurance move and may not mean every meeting rate cut in 2025, even though a large majority of investors have priced this in. So that, let me finish. So put simply, I think these minutes are more hawkish in tone than investors had anticipated, which he's been like. I agree with that completely. Following the release of the minutes, the market implied probability of the two further rate cuts fell slightly to 79.7 down. They actually have you ever seen the Fed Watch tool? Have you ever seen that? It's like,
Oh yeah.
it's like FanDuel, I mean, basically, it's like, let's bet on the Fed, I 100%. It amazes me that what struck me about the thing is they discussed a market collapse, and now maybe that could be a little bit hyper on that, but to have them talk, that something crazy is going on, that basically the numbers don't back up, really, other than people aren't taking action. They're just sitting, more and more people are sitting on the sideline. And that's, I don't know, that's concerning. Is that what you're seeing too? Or what's
Yes.
Rodney seeing in the world
Yeah.
of
It's
money?
kind of like we talked about earlier. It's just the different factors going on in the economy and everything else. That I think is allowing buyers to sit and wait and see if it's a better time for them next year, later in the year, or when the interest rates get better. So
And, I don't mean to try to predict this, but after 20 years, you really get to see some patterns. And except for one exception, I think in the last 4 years, it's October. I mean, we're looking at Halloween. There's pumpkins on porches already. I mean, we're headed into October, and that means you're like this close to people going, It's Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas and then it's New Year's. And I mean, people really start shutting down big time this time of year. And I've always said that Terry DeSelm's the guy I used to work for. It's not the way we do it in business, but the way I think of it is I used to work for the guy, and he said it always amazes me how the numbers drop off in November, December, and we're talking about 2 days, Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's not a
Yeah.
month. It's not Christmas month. It's Christmas Day. So, and he always kind of broke the mold because for the DeSelm's real estate, December always tended to be one of our best months of the year because when the secret to the sauce for real estate agents, if you happen to be one, is you're going to find a lot of agents pack it up and they go home. They're shutting down for the holidays, but if for those people that keep rolling, there's a lot of business out there to be had. A lot. Anyway, so we had a question here. I want to bring this up. Are you seeing more interest in lower priced housing? Here's the deal. At least, and do you have any thoughts on this at first, Rodney?
I'm not seeing like an increased if that's the question. No, I haven't seen like I wouldn't say, you know, lower priced houses are selling versus higher priced in our area.
The statistics would say that the lower price spread, and I mean 600 and under, if you can't believe that. When I started, 250 was starter homes. Find one of those in Franklin, that's a regular house. Can't do it. But anything under six, that's slowed down a ton. What's still moving are the multi-million dollar stuff. Because, I mean, the thing is that people with money pretty consistently have money regardless. And if you're in the lower band worth, 600 under, 500 under, whatever, you're the one that more often than not is asking the question, is this a good time to buy? That's, those are the ones where you get questions. I have this one client and he's a multi-million dollar guy. He's like, and he's just awesome. He's one of these guys that he's fun to talk to because, I mean, big is where he lives, and we've been looking at houses in the multi-million dollar range in Williamson County for, I don't know, a long time. And I keep him on as a client because he is fun to go looking at houses, and, it's just awesome. And he texted me yesterday and he goes, change my search. I want to do uh, up to 3 or 4 million condos downtown. I want to see what's going on down there. God, have you ever had over 2,500 square feet a condo? And I mean, damn. Have you ever seen? Oh man, do you close a lot of those during the course of the year? Condos downtown, high rise.
Um, so I wouldn't say a lot, but we do. We do. We do. I wouldn't say a lot, but we do them. I
Yeah,
mean, it,
that is a different lifestyle, man. There's some very cool stuff out there, but the thing that I noticed, one of them had a monthly association fee of $2,100.
ooh,
I was like, damn, that's a mortgage payment for a lot of folks,
yeah, that's big. Yeah.
That's big. So I put in the notes, be sure to pay attention to that. So anyway, well, to be fair, not really anything worth looking at around here for 850. Listen, that's been the case. Not that I would be judging, but in California, we've been moving people in from California that had bungalows that's 1,100 square feet selling for $1 million and coming into town buying 850 with cash to spare, So, hey, I would live in California if I could. I'm just saying. And that I would. You know what time it is? I know what
It's
time it
time.
is. You know what time it is? Here it comes. It's Rodney's riff. Ah.
All right, it's time to go. Let's see here. Refinancing mortgage question, 6.5 to 5.5%. Uh, Says I could get a 5.5 refi if I pay 9,000 in cost. I would save 650 a month on my payment going from 6.5%. Can someone explain if this is worth it or not, or should I be looking at to justify it? All right. A refinance to me can be very simple. Um, the first thing I do is I look at savings versus cost, and he gave both of those numbers there. And if you do the $9,000, that what the cost is, and you divide that by your savings, you're going to get a little over a year, 14 months. So 14 months is a break even on that. That is a significant savings. When you can break even in 14 months, it to me says it's very worth very worth it to do that. Because after if you're there for several years, you're going to be saving, 650 a month for outside of those 14 months.
Hmm.
Um, One thing you have to consider, and later down in the thread, it says it is just because you're saving 650, if your house was fixing to be paid off, you had 2 years left or something like that, and you really don't consider that. But since he only had the loan for 2 years, going back to a 30-year, I didn't see a big huge problem with that because he had only paid 2 years on the first. um, but you could also consider going down in term and saving years instead of dollars. So that's one thing you could have considered. But the way it sat, I kind of liked what he was doing, because he was doing it in less than 14 months, and then he was saving 650 a month every month from there on out. So let's jump into the comments and see what people kind of said here. The very first one, current ferret 4981, says, personally, I think you consider a slightly higher rate for credits. It varies and has uneven break points, but the payoff is absolute obvious in my opinion. Um, for example, you could pay 4,000 refi and reduce the monthly by 300 instead of paying 9,000 and getting 650, or pay 2,000 to refi and reduce it by 270, or pay zero to refi and reduce the monthly by 200. Um,
Jeez.
that all If you do the numbers on those, what works best is saving, what the customer actually has, getting it and saving 650 a month. Now, uh, I will say saving 650 a month, um, is extremely difficult to do on a mortgage like that number.
Hmm.
Your loan amount has to be 800, probably 800 plus thousand. So, that's one thing, to in order to go down 1% to save you that much a month. So, if you
Hmm.
let's see here, Nerd Sports says if you're saving 650 a month and paying 9,000, it almost covers itself in a year. Assuming there aren't other gotchas that make anything other than what it looks like, it's a solid win.
Hmm.
Same thing I did. He just took the how much you're saving, how much it takes you. There's other things to consider, but since we know that he's only been in there 2 years, it's I agree.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, Rick, I don't even know what that says, but right below it says, agreed. If you need cash flow relief, then it's the right move. The appreciation value will always catch up and cover the cost of the refinance. Um, that is
Hmm.
true, but the way I always tell people to look at refinance, just because we're rolling it into the loan, it's still a cost. You still need to look at the cost versus the savings and things like that. Just because you're not physically paying it at closing doesn't mean it's not a cost. Don't just think, oh, since I'm rolling it in, it doesn't matter. It really needs to make sense with the cost, even
Hmm.
though you're rolling it, putting it in your equity, you're spending it. So, take that money seriously.
Hmm.
Assuming that as a 15-year, have you asked lender credits to help with the closing cost? I have the customer come. I didn't know I could ask for credit. Is that something I can do? And then ritualistic comes in and says, it's not like you can just ask for lender credits and they magically appear. It's all built into your rate. I'd assume that 5.5 right now, you'd be paying points to buy down the rate. If you go higher in the rate, the points could cost to go down, blah, blah, blah. So at least that person says, there's no free just because you ask. You really, it's always good to ask, but there's no free magic something you just get. So,
Mm-hmm.
and here's where the guy said, or the person says, it's actually a 30-year interest. So, going down
Interesting.
to Braveheart, if you plan on staying there longer than 14 months, I would do it. It's going to take you just under 14 months to recover that 9,000, and after that period, it's all return on investment. Yeah, planning on staying long term, the customer said. I could see rates continuing to come down, so I'd consider waiting a few months to refi. Andy, how many times? I mean, honestly, give somebody a reason to wait, even when they're getting a good deal. And it just the procrastination or the wait or the fear of getting a better deal is always prevalent there.
Mm-hmm.
Medusa Adona something, I don't know. I apologize for
Close
everybody in
enough.
the earth who who understands how to pronounce mythical creatures. The proper analysis you should do is to compare the impact and overall difference in interest rate paid over the lifetime if you're to make a 9,000 payment to the principal. Most people are proposing when the savings will cover itself, more payments to principal will also save you interest. That's a good point. But when the starting point is so good, like when you can make it up in 14 months, I didn't sit there and take, on a 360, I didn't sit there and do 348 times 650 because I know that number is going to be large. Because that's how many months he's going to have at paying that 650. But really, I don't consider all that savings or whatever, because you're not going to probably be in that loan. You may not have this loan for 10 or 15 more years or something. So that's why I don't sit there and try to say, okay, well, you're going to save 275,000 by doing this, because that, to me, that's just not the safe way for me to look at it is to, one, figure out how long it takes you to make it back up. Is it a good deal to do it? And then how much you save is obviously on the back end a blessing. That's why you did it. But I will say this: the money you saved, if you took that and paid, kind of like this person's saying, you could make extra payments to principal, and that would even reduce your interest rate as well. So, and then for last one here, these people commenting are clueless, and it's scary that most people probably think the same thing. No, yeah, you got some good stuff in here. So that person's a little bit off there. So overall, I think there's some pretty good advice there. But by far, it looks like a really great deal. I'm a little skeptical because the loan amount has to be so large to save $650 a month. It's $800,000 or $900,000 loan amount. So it's not unusual, but definitely one to consider if you're looking to definitely save you some money at 5.5%. So
definitely.
That's the riff.
That was really good. That is really good. It strikes me. I really, I know I'm going to say it again because I really like Reddit for the most part. I mean, you get some off the wall. Everybody's clueless when in fact he's the clueless one, but people are actually offering really what they consider to be solid advice backed up by an actual expert, you know, and very little rudeness. I like Reddit for that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. It's it's a good thing. There was one thing I wanted to ask. I, I, do you think, and this is, I'm asking you to guess a little bit, because the mechanism that keeps people off the fence, like the guy said, that one person was a great example. I'd wait a little while to refi, while
Yeah.
it's, what kind of logic is that? That's the same guy that would have said, don't buy 2017. Don't do it. Wait for the numbers come down. While somebody
Yeah.
that did now has $300,000 in equity. It's the
Yeah.
same guy.
Yeah. Same guy said Bitcoin's a scam. He's got a shirt that says Bitcoin's a scam. Right. You know,
while people are like swimming in money.
yeah.
It amazes me.
Microsoft will never work. Yeah.
That Apple thing,
Yeah.
flash in a pan, fast. I wonder what it is that. Because clearly some of those people had some really good mathematical skills, and I'm not trying to be cute. I mean, they know what the numbers are and the impact. And I get it looks like the fringy people that maybe look at the top line or the bottom line without knowing how the meat of it works. Those are the ones that are on the fence most of the time. Is that, I don't know, does that make sense?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a particular. I think it's honestly, I think that all people have the tendency to look at something and say, if it's not perfect, if I don't know, because it's all it's like going and buying a car. Sometimes unless you know that car dealer, you're probably going to go to a lot and be jumped on and not have a great experience or whatever it is. And I don't mean to pick on car people, but
Yeah.
my point is it's just unknown, and it's if given if there's a any kind of reasonable idea to procrastinate or to say hold on a second and let me think through this, it's such a big purchase, it's going to happen.
It's been my experience that, and as a realtor over a long period of time, you kind of become one of these cheap psychologists, I mean, because a lot of times you're a therapist and you're trying to help people get through all kinds of stuff. And I'm kind of not kidding about that. You do end up in those places. But what I've discovered is that what keeps people on the fence, a lot of times it's the facts. Like I don't know how much down payment I'm comfortable parting with. Not that I don't have it, but I don't know how much I'm comfortable giving away in one chunk. That's a bigger chunk of money than I'm used to giving away. But then there's a number of people in we in the industry, when you're handling objections, there's reasons and then there's excuses. And if somebody is saying, I like the house, but I'm not ready to pull the trigger, you can say why, which is typically what you'll do. And they'll say, well, because of the money or whatever. And then if you satisfy that and they say, well, the sun, I don't like the way that it's setting in the sky in the backyard. I mean, it's just one thing after
Yeah.
another. So we're just human and we just want to make it as right as possible, because it's big dollars. And Angie asked this question: do you still have a lot of cash buyers? Cash buyers, if I'm not mistaken, I saw this statistic a couple of weeks ago. It's 26 and 29% of all purchases, which is a lot. That's a lot. Um, I mean, those are the people you'd kind of like, oh, what do you do for a living? Because they're walking up, plopping down 2.2 million. Oh, here you go. I sell
Yeah,
shoes.
I haven't seen a lot of I mean, and when it's you say it as a mortgage person, we never have a cash buyer, but we see them all the time. It does start out with a contract, and so I haven't seen a lot of cash deals. I think all deals are down. I mean, I think that's the issue we've been talking about is all deals are down, and cash
All
deals
deals are down.
definitely
Hmm.
for one of them here.
Hmm. Well, and cash buyers, I mean, they they know that they can really control the transaction because there's a lot of stuff they don't have to do. They don't have to do inspections, but they will. They don't have to do an appraisal, but they usually will. And they can bargain, especially now. If you're selling a house, I'm going to make up a number. If you're selling a house for $2 million, they can come in and say, "I'll give you 1.75, and we can close in 10 days." Somebody's going to be having a conversation with the seller,
Yeah.
because they can do that. So they're still out there. I mean, for sure. So moving on, and I was when I was putting this show together, I actually had um, this show queued up before, and it was a little bit risky. And the topic is the government shutdown adds uncertainty to the housing market, and that's what we've covered some of it, but this is going to flesh that out just a little bit more. And then we've got a second article, excuse me, that talks about the shutdown and the effect that it has in Florida. So I mean, it's kind of but two sides of the same coin. But the reason I was felt like this is yeah, mm, yeah, okay. I think, yeah, I, mm, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just a data point. Um, it really is a data point. Um, the shutdown. So the reason I felt it was risky because I could have woke up this morning and it would have been done. you know, which I wish that it was over and we didn't get to talk about it, but here we are. So the federal government shut down this week for the first time in more than, how old is this article? It's a little bit older. It's older than I'm used to, but sorry about that. Anyway, first time in 7 years, that 35-day episode caused home sales to ebb, though they rebounded afterwards. The shutdown directly affects some transactions because the National Flood Insurance Program stops issuing new policies. The majority of home sales should be unaffected, but others may face potential delays due to limited staffing in various agencies. While it's tough to measure, the shutdown is likely to drag on consumer confidence. Mhm.
Yeah.
One key pain point is the lack of new data. And I actually looked this up this morning so I would have this ready to go. And it is what uh, reports are delayed. And it's like jobs and employment, kind of important, for Jay and his crew to know what to do with the Fed fund rate. Inflation, consumer price index, we're not going to see that. Economic and census, don't care about the census so much. But I mean, it's the stuff that everybody makes judgment on. We're not seeing those numbers. What about Fannie Mae and Freddie and all the government-backed loans? Fill me in on that.
From our perspective, everything's operational, except the Farmers Home Loan, USDA, rural housing. They're shut down, so
Really?
they're not doing anything. We're not getting any commitments or any money from them right now. Is the latest I've heard. It could have changed over the last few days, but I don't think anything has.
So USDA is what you're saying?
Yes, the THDA agency, the state agency, was even open on Columbus Day yesterday. So the rest of it right now, we're still wiring and things like that. So lending for the most part is still going. Um, Outside of a couple different programs, it's still going pretty good.
Yeah, I'm gonna back up and finish this too. I think that you're absolutely right about that, Angie. That's a case by case basis. That's my only point, is that if you're paying cash, you have the option of waiving that appraisal. Doesn't mean you should every time, but you're absolutely right. If there's comps, you're probably good. So, and who cares anyway? Long term,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I mean, I'm,
You're not trying.
it just, for me, it would depend on where the property's at. Like if I could see the comps, like you could go, but I've seen like if I went out and tried to buy 25 acres, 30 acres somewhere, and there's no comps nowhere to be found, that uh, their sales price or whoever came up with it is I don't want to say a shot in the dark, but
Pretty
it's
much
close to
that.
that. So that depending, like if you go to a neighborhood or something like that, you probably don't need an appraisal, but there are properties out here that you'd be like, ugh, you know.
And I think what caused me to pause on that was the story that I was telling about the condos, because these are multi-million-dollar units, and you would think that they would be easy to, if you have one unit up here and one unit down here, could you comp those? Probably. The higher you get, the more expensive it gets. It's a strange thing, but that's what it is. It's that kind of stuff that case by case. But you're absolutely right. If it's a garden variety, and I mean a lovely home, um, it's like if you're in Chattanooga or whatever, and it's a neighborhood that you can easily consume, you can see the neighborhood prices. You're safe. You're good. But it's still something you don't have to do. So let's say $550. So one key pay point is the lack of new data. September employment report slated for Friday has been delayed, so we don't know how hiring or unemployment trended officially in the past month. And I was looking up real estate data, and I mean, what is it? 14 days that it's been, and I thought by now they would have had October stuff out. And I was like, huh, well, maybe that's part of it. I'm not seeing anything. Private data showed softer hiring, and the August job turnover report showed hiring, and that's what Ange was saying, is jobs are tough out there. Separations in line with recent trends. This makes it harder for both markets and policymakers to assess what's going on and position for what's ahead. It's interesting when they use the word market. What they're talking about is the collective consciousness, just a bunch of people with a bunch of opinions. That's the market. It's kind of interesting. So mortgage rates edged up. So now it's 6.31 today. That's for what I always look at. But remain in the low sixes for the fourth week. That's a good thing as markets digest the shutdown and try to price its impact. Mortgage rates have remained relatively high through most of 2025. Do you see anything, in your opinion, in the stuff that you're given every day? What do they see trending for the balance of the year? Still where we're at?
I I think it's just going to trend a little bit better and a little bit better. I think the Fed will end up cutting rates. I think we'll follow. It's we've had a nice little trend here recently, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you look at this mortgage rates from 2020 to today, and I think we looked at this a couple of weeks ago. It's amazing that over this last year and a half, this last couple of years, that's pretty flat in the grand scheme of things. That's pretty flat, and as for people that are worried about the market jumping around too much, that's flat enough to gain some confidence in. It's just going to be higher than 3 and 4% that we're used to. It's just get over it. So meanwhile, pending home sales picked up in August as buyers react to the dip in mortgage rates. And I bet that was the case for you guys too, huh?
Yes.
People were going under contract. It doesn't. If there was a mortgage rate dip is 15 basis points enough to gain some activity, in your opinion?
Probably not, but it's just like each basis point or each 10 basis points, there's another level of customers that could potentially refi and get a better deal right now,
Mm.
or makes homes a little bit more affordable. Um, but it's the talk again. It's the talk of declining interest rates keeps people on the fence. Um, you know.
Yeah. Plus, keeps them, quite frankly, it keeps them interested too. I mean, the fact that we've got the Fed is going to be cutting rates, and at least that's the way it seems to be laying out. The odds are 79% now. That keeps people interested, because there's people that's leaning into it. They're ready to tip into it. And the only thing I would say, the tendencies that I see is, and this is just from a realtor perspective, the minute somebody starts wanting to see houses, that's inertia. And then you're getting out on Saturdays and Sundays and you're looking at how now they're rolling. And it kind of all of a sudden the rates are a little bit background noise, because we know basically what it is.
Right.
And they're looking forward, and it's like, can we make an offer on this one? That's almost always how it comes. Can we make an offer? Oh yeah, we can do that. I mean, that's when the questions about rates typically slow down. Maybe not when they're talking to you, but but for my side of it, that's at inertia. So the Realtor September housing data suggests that price softness largely continues, with listing prices holding flat. Price cuts are, if I showed you my email and sorted by price cut, I'm getting 10 to 12 notifications of price cuts every day across Nashville. I mean, Nashville, Williams County, all of it. There's a lot of price cuts going on. And it's funny because there was one, there was, I'll never figure this out. It was a $2 million house, and they were cutting the price by $100, like 10 times in a row. And it takes $1,000 to trick the system where it kicks out your property, so I don't know what they're doing at any rate. As we approach the best time to buy nationwide, they say that this week is the best time to buy. I don't know who, whatever. Some markets are already there, with areas like Atlanta, Austin, Chicago wrapping up their best week, as Las Vegas stands out for prime conditions next week. Finally, you'll probably know it when you see it, but what is a luxury home? And that's the dividing line between merely high-end and luxury. That condo is, you should see these things, $2,100 a month. Oh, man. So how long do you think this shutdown's going to last? Any thoughts?
I don't know. I think air travel is a big part of it, and our the air traffic controllers' pay goes through today. So today's the
Really?
last day for air traffic controllers, and I think they've already been cut to 70%. Uh,
No
so
kidding.
if they want to shut down air traffic across the country, it's fixing to happen. So I mean, maybe they keep working for 70% or something, but I don't. It. It's just silly.
It's just, it's just kind of a self-inflicted wound. I don't care how you put it. Did you have any thoughts on this? The government shutdown has hit the housing market hard, and Florida shows what's at stake.
Yeah, well, no, just there was some. I just liked the article. There was some things at the end of it I thought that people haven't, that I haven't thought about, even being in the business. It's about the flood insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, um, and then here we go again. Builders rebound on pause. You know, it's like we're four we're 4 million houses short of people. They say if people, Americans, whatever, could buy a house, right? four
Yep.
million, and they always say, well, the builders quit building in difficult times, but it's like, what are they supposed to do? They can't afford, they go out of business every single time. The ones who can't get rid of their inventory end up going out of business. It's like, and here comes the bashing of the builders for not
Yeah.
building in a downturn. Like, the government should cover their interest and cover their spec home cost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the craziest thing ever. But you're right. I mean, that, and then there was I think they was talking about some other insurance or something, just with the government shutdown being, you know, Flood
Here's one
exposed
of
areas closings are delayed. The NFIPs.
yeah. The thing
Shut
that caught
down.
my
So
the thing, if I can interject, the thing that caught my attention was the real estate market in Florida, and we're talking about Florida because we're talking about our idea on this show is nationwide stuff. I mean, there's stuff going on locally, but it's real estate's a local market. But in broad strokes, it's no small thing in Florida where housing doesn't just shape the market; it is the market. It's 24% of the gross domestic product of Florida, and it says that there you go. So if builders, I'm going to add, I like to interject with Angie. So if builders stop building, why would they expect home prices to go down? Thank you.
yeah,
But the next thought, and this is important, at least I believe it to be, real estate accounts for nearly 20% of the U.S. economy. And housing is big, big, big. And I mean, we're not talking just about buying a house and lighting loans. We're talking about paint and wood and swings and chandeliers and flooring and geez Louise, touching every community and driving millions of jobs. Uh, each additional day of uncertainty threatens programs that help buyers, sellers, and property owners navigate an already challenging market. And this is coming from this is Realtor.com, and I've kind of maybe not lambasted them, but in terms of a direction, they trend positive, which I'm glad. You gotta. I'm glad that they do that. But even they're saying it's like
yeah,
we've got some stuff going on, and don't want to scare you, but it's stuff. So nowhere are the consequences more visible than on Florida's coast and low-lying wetlands. The state sits at the center of the nation's flood risk. They've talked about huge number of houses not being able to get insured. The shutdown causes it so that new homes can't be issued policies. And if I'm sure it says that in there, and if I'm quite sure that as a lender, if you don't have insurance, you're not getting the loan. Is that a fair statement?
yeah. You can't get. I mean, they can't even get renewals right now for the ones that are expiring. Who
Yeah.
currently, so they're sitting there wondering if they even have coverage. So yeah, it's you know it'd be nice if the government went back to work.
It really would be. It really would be nice. And this show is not designed at all to be. I don't. It's real. It's the reality check, and I'm trying to balance things out. Are people buying houses? Yes. Are they having a great life and planting their flag and moving forward? They're going to be holding on to a ton of equity. Yes. What we're talking about is how do people feel about the market today? What's going on right now that causes people consternation? Because the difference, as I see it, is you've got millions of people that are sitting home looking at Zillow, looking at homes.com, looking at realtor.com, whatever. They're window shopping, they're dreaming. They've got a kid coming, they got to upgrade their house or they got to downgrade because it's empty nest, whatever the case. There's that group, huge. And then there's the group that actually makes a phone call and says, I need to do something about this. There's That's the difference. That's the difference maker in all these policies. Is it goes from somebody who's window shopping to actually shopping. Those are it seems to me. So what happens when the people with a mortgage who are losing their insurance? I do you have an answer for that?
Well, they're really not losing like the flood insurance, the federal programs. They're just, if they, it's like if their renewals come due, they can't talk to anybody and pay them. If they were trying to refinance, they couldn't refinance because they couldn't get
Mm,
anything from the government. If you're trying to buy right now, you couldn't buy. But if you have it, what I'm assuming is going to happen is the people is going to continue to pay. And if there was something, a disaster that come through, they'll be covered. But it's not, it's just not something to mess with. It's like government shutdown. We're not a third world country. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous.
Go, Rodney, go. Yeah.
That's the yeah, that's the reality check for the people in office not keeping the government open.
Yeah, the answer to that, I'm pretty sure I can
Yeah.
answer that one.
We
They're
have to
required.
have yes, they are
Hmm.
required, and we have to have an active policy going. But if it's if it's a flood policy right now, I mean the lenders can't do anything about it because they're shut down. It's not like they're going to call these people and try to there ain't nothing they can do because there's nobody else offer. I don't think there's a competitor against the flood program. So for
I,
insurance,
I mean, FEMA is pretty much it for the high level stuff, right?
I think so.
I think it is too. So they can't. That's yeah. Yes, they can't take the house back. No. Mm-mm.
No, not because they're the not for the shutdown. No,
There would be. Remember when you're talking about that kind of stuff, and I've had to learn this. If stuff ends up going that direction, you end up in court, and in the end of the day, court is just a person sitting behind a bench trying to make a reasonable decision based on the information, and ooh, even fire insurance. Well, hmm.
well if the government is issuing it, it's not going to be issued right now. I mean they're shut down, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's fire, wind, hail, whatever it is. If it's backed by the federal government, they're not issuing policies like
Mm,
so. It
yeah.
just wouldn't. You're just at a standstill till they open back up.
Yeah. So, and anyway, what a great show. The Rodney's riff was better than ever. I did want to mention, I wanted to say, as we're heading off the air here, I read something the other day, and I would like to, with Rodney's permission, to be able to adopt this. I think I sent you an email on this, but for this show and my YouTube channel as well, if you happen to be into YouTube, I've got a mission statement. In the mission, I believe, for this show is to help home buyers and sellers get smarter, faster in real estate. Now, it's a slightly shortened version, but it's to help home buyers and sellers get smarter, faster by using real data, common sense insights, hence Rodney's Rift, and new tools like AI and social media to navigate today's changing real estate market with confidence. And um, that's what I would really like to press forward on this particular idea. That's what I'd like to be able to deliver to people. You okay with that, Rodney?
It sounds like a good plan.
So I like it. I like it very much. Angie, thank you so much for being with us today. Great questions. We'll see you next week, I hope. Rodney, thank you for everything, as always. Talk to you
See
soon. Any
y'all.
last
All
thoughts?
right.
See you.
Nope, I'm
Bye.
good. See ya.